Over the next few weeks, This Is America visits Japan, a country rich in tradition and undergoing a historic period of transition. We'll take a look at Japan's government, trade, economy, culture, and people, as well as seeing the sights and hearing the sounds of a country of great complexity and stunning beauty. We'll learn about what's on the horizon for Japan, the role of women in the workforce, continuous technological innovation, and the hosting of the 2020 Olympics. On this program, an exclusive interview recorded in Tokyo with Japan's Prime Minister Shinzo Abe right before his summit meeting with President Obama. We'll talk about U.S.-Japan relations and Japan's importance in the region and in the world. This is America and the World is brought to you by the National Education Association, the U.S.-China Education Trust, and the F.Y. Chang Foundation, guided by Ambassador Julia Chang Block, President. The League of Arab States, representing 350 million people in 22 member countries. ANA, Japan's largest airline with an extensive network throughout Asia. Japan, history, hospitality, and advanced technology, sharing tomorrow. The Republic of Kazakhstan, a rich history and a future of development and growth. The Rotendaro Family Trust. The Embassy Series, uniting people through musical diplomacy, presenting international artists in diplomatic settings, and Ventana Productions, television facilities, editing, and distribution services. Tell me three things that people should know about Japan.
もちろん
Well, first of all, I would like to mention the fact that, of course, Japan is an ally of the United States, sharing basic values such as freedom, democracy, basic human rights, and rule of law. But if I am to focus on 3 points, then I will say the following. The first one is that we attach great importance to helping one another when it comes to helping people. And the second point is that it is a peaceful nation. This is a country which attaches great importance to peace. And the third one is that Japanese people are diligent, Japanese people are honest with sincerity. Well, at the time of the great disaster hitting the eastern part of Japan, Japanese people and affected people helped one another, sharing even in difficult times, sharing food, for example. If you go to rural areas in Japan, you will find beautiful scenery of water-filled rice paddies. Since ancient times, Japanese people would rise very early in the morning, till their fields, and then share water to their rice paddies, and then they will rejoice in the celebration together in the harvest in the autumn. If one of the villagers should become sick and not able to till the land, then villagers will bring in a bowl of rice so that they can help the sick villagers. So this has been the tradition of the rural community. I think it is fair to say that against this tradition, Japanese nationals do support the universal health insurance system in Japan.
So hospitality is a value of the Japanese people.
Yes, hospitality is one of the values that the Japanese people share. At the same time, I would like to mention the fact that Japan, after the war, began its progress toward a peaceful nation. And we are now giving a second largest contribution to the United Nations. So ever since even we were poor, Japan provided overseas assistance. The reason why we have the strong thought about contributing to the well-being of the rest of the world is because we have the strong memory and thought about how the economic growth of Japan was enabled. After the war, we were living in a very tough condition, and to this situation, the international community led by the United States assisted us. Another aspect of the Japanese people is the diligence and the serious honesty. Well, for example, Shinkansen, the bullet train, is the embodiment of the state-of-the-art technology of Japan. And these bullet trains run hundreds of services every 3 minutes between Tokyo and Osaka. I think this is the result of the nature of the Japanese people, including those engineers who develop the technology, of course, and those people who are involved with the servicing of the train operations. But not only those people, even a single worker on the floor of the factory producing screws, for example, used in the bullet train, they have the wish of wanting to complete whatever they are producing even better the next day. I think we can say that the current Japan is faced with a variety of challenges. One is aging with low fertility. I think it is fair to say that Japan is now faced with the first ever challenge that we never experienced in the past, which is the declining population. Another point is what is happening in the international community. The security environment is changing in Asia Pacific. I think a greater international contribution is called for of Japan from the rest of the world.
So aging population, declining birth rate, opens the door for more women in the workplace, and also a change in immigration policy as well, huh?
Of course, we would like to change this trend of low fertility by providing an environment where women will feel very comfortable to give birth to children and raise them.
How do you encourage that?
First of all, we have to create an environment which will provide comfortable working conditions for women. For example, we noticed the problem of the short supply of daycare centers. So kids, if they want to go to the daycare center for a while, they have to be on the waiting list, so-called. So we have a planning for having a daycare centers which could accommodate 400,000 kids, so that we will eliminate this phenomenon of kids on the waiting list. Including the policies that I just spoke of, we would like to have the policy of supporting parents who are nurturing their children. But these policies would not immediately change the direction of the population declining. So first we have to improve the individual's productivity by the introduction of innovation, and at the same time talking about broader policy agenda.
I was in Washington recently, and the U.S.-Japan Council had a seminar on women in the workplace in Japan. One of the presenters defined the glass ceiling as a thick layer of men. Will women be appreciated in the workforce?
Certainly, I must admit that compared with other countries, Japan has not been able to fully capitalize the potential and ability of women. In a different way, though, this situation can tell me that there are resources untapped in Japan. Therefore, from next year, for example, for recruiting new hires to become the civil servants in the government, we would like to have a target of making the new hires 30% women. Also, we are calling for at least having one woman on the board to the listed companies.
Will they be accepted?
I think many corporations are studying and reviewing this request very positively. I think by doing so, I believe that enterprise value of those companies which do that will increase, as well as the credibility and the profitability of those companies. Well, yesterday, I appointed the first person, woman, to lead the Personnel Affairs Agency. One of the prefectural police headquarters head also has become a woman, and they are just performing their tasks brilliantly. So I think with this trend, men in Japan will realize that they have to fully utilize and capitalize on the potential and ability of women. Otherwise, they will not see the improvement of their companies or organizations.
We should say to the Prime Minister, in Washington, D.C., the Chief of Police is a woman, and she is highly respected. Mr. Prime Minister, you work so hard on the economy with the bank and with the stimulus, and now it's flattened out. Are you frustrated? What next steps can you take?
We are working on the growth strategy currently, and of course regulatory reform is an important part of that. But there is no end goal in such reforms, and there will always come new challenges. Rather than feeling frustrated about the fact that challenges are popping up one after another, or the fact that things have flattened out, I think it is more necessary for me to realize the fact that the more I face the new challenges, the more difficult the situation becomes. I should have a greater flame in my mind for the fighting spirit, if you will, and then I should become more willing to make challenges. So when I go home, rather than kicking the rubbish can that I have in my kitchen, I try to change my state of mind by watching videos or reading books or listening to music.
What kind of music do you like?
Well, as I get old, I tend to become like classical music more. Well, recently I went to a concert by Rolling Stones.
Did you enjoy?
I was reminded of my young days.
Let's talk about the countries in the neighborhood and your relationship with those countries. There is some conflict. There is some tension. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Korea is an important neighbor which shares values and strategic interests with Japan. The other day, with the leadership of President Obama, we were able to have the summit meeting of Japan, US, and Korea, tripartite summit meeting. And I had a summit meeting with President Park Geun-hye in this meeting. I think it was a first step toward creating a future-oriented relationship. So going forward, I'd like to see to it so that we can develop the relationship, which would become even closer.
President Obama switched his foreign policy. They call it the Asian pivot. Was the pivot necessary?
There is no doubt that from the world's perspective, Asia is an important place because population is growing and economies are ever more developing. In the context of China increasing its military spending in double-digit pace almost every year, I think it is very important to have U.S. presence in Asia.
So, Mr. Prime Minister, if I could say, so China is important to Japan trade-wise, but there is conflict there. Is there a fear of China?
I believe that China is the largest trading partner for us, and Chinese economic development is very important for Japan as well as for the whole world. Not only Japan, but the ASEAN nations as well as countries in Asia are all hoping that China will make a peaceful development respecting the order of the international community. Precisely because of that, we must share the thinking, basic thought with the United States as well as ASEAN countries, which is about the fact that we should never tolerate the change of the status quo against the background of power, as well as disrespecting the rule of law.
What do you think, Mr. Prime Minister, what's China's goal? What is China up to?
I believe China would like to develop its economy. China is a state which wants to develop its economy, and to that end, they are strengthening various regimes in their country, and they are trying to protect the interests. Well, Japan has an inseparable relationship with China when it comes to economy, and I believe that the Sino-Japanese relationship is one of the most important bilateral relations for us.
I see in your previous response that we have the United States and all of the ASEAN countries over here, and we have China over there. Is that true?
Well, unfortunately, China is trying to change the status quo in South China Sea and East China Sea against the backdrop of power. China is also provoking Japan regarding the claim over Senkaku Islands, which are an inherent part of the territory of Japan, in light of historical facts and based upon international law. Well, important thing is to realize that ocean is the public good, and therefore we should not allow the rule by power or force, but rule by law. I think this is the most important principle that ASEAN, Japan, and the United States should share.
Is the island dispute real or is it symbolic?
Well, this problem, as I said, is not only a problem limited to Senkaku Islands. As we speak, now the same thing is happening in South China Sea. So this issue is a matter of reality, not a symbolic affair between Japan and China. It is the reality occurring in South China Sea and East China Sea.
So if you see China and also North Korea, DPRK, does it have to cause you to rethink your own military concerns?
Well, in this year's budget, China increased its military spending by 12%. Therefore, in that context, if a balance is changed, it is a factor which will influence the peace and stability of the region.
And Japan?
Precisely because of that, we have to strengthen U.S.-Japan alliance. Naturally, as the Prime Minister, I have the responsibility to protect the land and sea which belong to the territory of Japan, as well as the lives and properties of the people. Territorial air is, of course, something we have to protect, but all of a sudden, China unilaterally came up with what is called ADIS, and it is running counter to the international law, and they have set this air defense identification zone. So the first time in the last 11 years, we increased our defense budget under the consideration that it is necessary to do so to protect peace and prosperity of Japan and Asia. But the increase is 0.8%. We will be increasing our defense budget 5 years in a row, but the increase will be 0.8% in real terms.
Let me ask this question, Mr. Prime Minister. Look at history for 100 years and war, 100 years, and Asia was hurt, Europe was hurt, America was hurt, and there remains the horrors of war, the pains of war. Can those wounds ever be healed?
The injury and pains that you suffer in your heart is not something which will heal immediately. Well, in the last war, we recognize that we have left a lot of damages and sufferings on many people, especially the Asian people, and upon the serious and deep reflection, we have built our country post-war. And since Japan was poor, from those days we started assisting other countries. To the countries of ASEAN, we have rendered assistance in a different form from war reparation. That was done in the understanding that we wanted to have heart-to-heart communication with the ASEAN friends, so we wanted to work together with them and we wanted to advance and progress together. Regarding Korea, when the diplomatic relationship was normalized, that was in 1965, when the basic treaty between Japan and Korea was signed, we decided and we actually implemented the assistance to the tune of 1.6 times of the national budget of Korea. Same could be said about China. What is important in all of these is to make young people exchange. Abe government has come up with the policy or program which is called Gen 2.0. That is a program to invite young people from Asia. A lot of Asian countries, including China and Korea, we would like them to come to Japan. And when they come, they drastically change their perception about Japan. They realize that they had a prejudice, if you will, about Japan. When they come, they find the Japanese towns and streets very clean, Japanese people very kind, and they realize that Japanese people do respect their own countries.
So the key is young people. President Obama is just about to come for a big meeting with you. When you look at America, what do you see?
U.S. is an important, indispensable ally of Japan. In this context, I can say that Japan is also discharging its own responsibility vis-à-vis the United States, like participating into TPP, as well as joining in the realignment and the transformation of U.S. forces, as well as the ratification of the Hague Convention. So what I see in the United States is the fact that U.S. is the most important ally of Japan. At the same time, I see full of potential, possibilities abound in the U.S. As the leader, of course, the U.S. is doing a lot in terms of economic matters, and as the leader of the liberal camp, if you will, or liberal world, U.S. has discharged its role and responsibility, made huge contribution to that. We pay deepest respect.
2020 Olympics coming up. You must be very excited. What is your vision for Japan the next 5, 10 years?
Well, we would like to see great success out of the 2020 Olympic and Paralympic Games. I think that opportunity has given us an objective looking toward 2020. Come 2020, we would like to showcase the wonders of Japanese technology, as well as the beauty of Japanese environment and the nature, as well as the fact that I mentioned in earlier remarks, the diligence and serious and honest aspect of Japanese people. Well, 2020 is not only for the Olympic Games, it is the time for the Paralympic Games. So for the disabled people, we would like to showcase that Tokyo and Japan is a place where you don't have barriers to move around, and it's a place full of opportunities. So to that end, we would like to work on the cityscaping and city building. So we also have another big objective of having 30% women participating in the leadership position by the year 2020. Looking toward that goal, we'd like to work. Also, we would like to see Japanese economic growth which is beneficial to Asia and to the rest of the world. In other words, I am convinced that Japanese economic growth precisely will be the greatest contribution that we can make to the world.
Mr. Prime Minister, thank you for your hospitality. Over the next few weeks, we'll be offering programs produced throughout Japan and focused on education, technology, innovation, culture, and of course, Japan's role in the region and in the world. It's an incredible experience to be in a country with such a strong sense of tradition and a firm focus on the future. Enjoy these upcoming programs as This is America visits Japan. For information about This Is America and the World and online video for all of our programs, visit our website, thisisamerica.net. And now you can follow us on Facebook and Twitter. This Is America and the World is brought to you by the National Education Association, the U.S.-China Education Trust, and the F.Y. Chang Foundation, guided by Ambassador Julia Chang Block, President. The League of Arab States, representing 350 million people in 22 member countries. ANA, Japan's largest airline with an extensive network throughout Asia. Japan, history, hospitality, and advanced technology. Sharing tomorrow. The Republic of Kazakhstan, a rich history and a future of development and growth. The Rotondaro Family Trust. The Embassy Series, uniting people through musical diplomacy, presenting international artists in diplomatic settings. And Ventana Productions, television facilities, editing, and distribution services.